Yo, welcome back to the channel. Kamusta po sa inyong lahat? Hiyuki is officially a Glacio sword user. And honestly, that alone already tells you why people are paying attention. Wuthering Waves has gone way too long without adding a new Glacio unit. Since launch, the element has basically been stuck in time. And if you've been building teams seriously, you've definitely felt that gap. This isn't just about having more options. It's about finally having a modern unit that actually fits how the game evolves. And what makes this reveal hit harder is that it actually makes sense. Her design screams ice. The color palette, the weapon, the overall aesthetic, everything lines up with Glacio in a way that feels intentional instead of random. It sounds simple, but that kind of consistency has not always been guaranteed. So, seeing a character where the visuals and the gameplay identity actually match is a really good sign. It suggests that devs are starting to care more about cohesion instead of just filling roles. Now, let's talk about the weapon choice because this is where things get interesting, especially if you are not trying to spend a ton. Hiyuki being a sword user is low-key one of the best outcomes possible. Sword characters in Wuthering Waves tend to have access to some of the most flexible and reliable weapons in the game, so you are not locked into some niche option that only works on one character. And more importantly, there is already a very strong standard weapon sitting there waiting to be used. Emerald of Genesis has been quietly carrying a lot of sword users, and there is a very real chance Hiyuki slots into that perfectly. So if that ends up being the case, then you are looking at a character that does not demand her signature weapon just to function. That's a huge deal. It means you can realistically build her using resources you already have, instead of feeling forced to go all in on her signature weapon banner. So for a lot of players, especially free-to-play or low spenders, that alone can determine whether a character is worth pulling. And Hiyuki is shaping up to be one of those units that respects your resources instead of draining them. Now, of course, the big question is what role she actually fills. To be honest, nobody is waiting this long for a new Glacier character just to get another support. That would be a very strange decision, especially for what looks like an anniversary level release. Everything about her points towards being a main DPS. The sword animations, the overall presentation, the way her kit is being teased, it all leans into that direction. And that is exactly what the element needs. Current Glacial options are not unusable, but they definitely feel dated compared to new releases in other elements. The power level in this game has clearly moved forward, and Glacio has been left trying to keep up. So if Hiyuki comes in as a proper damage dealer with modern scaling and mechanics, she is not just another addition, she is a reset button for the entire element. And there have also been some comparisons floating around, especially with people trying to connect her to certain characters from other games like Alpha from Punishing Grey Raven. I get why that conversation exists. The icy aesthetics, the clean sword style, even some of the animation previews give off a very familiar vibe. But at the same time, it is probably better to treat her as her own character instead of forcing that comparison too early. Inspiration is one thing, but identity matters more, especially long term. What we can talk about more confidently though is her animation quality because that is already turning heads. Her ultimate, from what we've been shown, looks really good. There is this glass shattering effect layered into the animation that just adds impact to everything she does. It is not just flashy for the sake of it, but it actually reinforces the whole ice theme in a way that feels very satisfying. And then there is also this idea that her damage might interact with frozen enemies in a more meaningful way. Timing it seems to provide a larger return on investment. If her burst becomes stronger when the target is fully frozen, that opens up some interesting timing based gameplay with massive payoffs. So instead of just pressing buttons on cooldowns, you are potentially rewarded for setting things up properly and executing at the right moment. And that kind of interaction adds depth without making the character feel complicated for no reason. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at why this release matters beyond just her individual kit. Glacio has been one of the least represented elements in the game for a long time. So that creates a very real problem when it comes to endgame content, where having proper elemental coverage can make or break your runs. Adding a strong Glacier DPS does not just improve one team, it expands what your entire account can handle. It means you are less likely to run into situations where you simply do not have the right element to deal with a specific challenge. And that kind of flexibility is extremely valuable, especially as the game continues to introduce harder content. So, even if you are not completely sold on her design or playstyle yet, there is a strong practical argument for why she is worth considering. She simply fills a gap that has been there since over last year. And if she delivers on that expectation, she does it in a way that is both accessible and hopefully impactful. So at this point, Hiyuki feels less like a random addition and more like a correction, a character that brings an underdeveloped element up to the standards set by newer releases. If the numbers and the final kit match the current expectations, she could easily become one of the most important pulls in the game right now. Not because she is flashy, although I think she definitely is gonna be, but because she solves a problem that has been sitting in the background for, over a year now, way too long. And honestly, it is about time Glacier got that kind of attention. So now, the real question is not whether Hiyuki looks good because she clearly does. At this point, that part is already settled. The real question is whether she actually delivers when it matters. Whether all the visual hype, the clean animations, the satisfying effects, all of that translates into real performance once you put her into actual endgame content. Because we have seen this before. A character looks incredible on reveal, everyone gets excited, and then the numbers drop and suddenly things get a bit more complicated. Expectations meet reality and not always in a good way. But Hiyuki kind of feels different. And that is mostly because she is not just being judged as an individual unit, she is carrying the weight of an entire element that has been waiting for an upgrade since day one. So if she lands properly, if her scaling is competitive, if her mechanics reward good play without being restrictive, then this is not just a good character release. It's a turning point. This is the moment where Glacio finally steps out of that outdated space and starts competing with the rest of the roster on equal footing. So, what about you? Are you looking forward to the release of Hiyuki? Are you going to pull for her? Leave your comments below. And as always, if this video resonated with you, please leave a like and subscribe, ring that bell for massive gacha luck and maybe a sandwich. Thank you so much for watching. Maraming salamat po, and I will see you in my next video drop. Goodbye.